Good evening, everyone. I'm your host, comedian, magician, Danny Whitson. But it's all tricks aside, because tonight we're turning the paranormal into the normal. Join me as we explore the gray areas of reality. We're going to talk all things paranormal, UFOs, ghosts, cryptids, and aliens, and see how it's all connected. This podcast is brought to you by the Experiencer Support Association, and we are live. So if you're an experiencer yourself, or you're just plain nosy, be sure to send me your question and subscribe to the podcast. Now, get ready, because it's going to get deep. No, really, we're going to go way out there, because this is Beyond the Tinfoil Hat.
What's happening, my paranormal junkies? I'm your host, Danny Whitson, and welcome to Beyond the Tinfoil Hat. Guys, we are streaming live from the E-United Public Radio Network and the UFO Paranormal Radio Network on 105.3 FM on the Gulf Coast and 107.7 in New Orleans. Guys, we got a fantastic show lined up for you this evening. But first, I want to make a quick little cool announcement, something that I just picked up on, man. And I actually just heard, and I thought this is super cool. So any of you guys that are following the UAP thing that's going on with the Congress hearings that's happening, it has been announced that they will be having a hearing next month. No, actually this month. A little later on this month, towards the end of the month, we're going to be getting another Congress hearing about the UAPs that's going on. Now, I don't know how much we're going to get out of it, but I do hear that we're going to have 2 hearings before the end of the year. So, but this is the first one. So maybe we'll get a little closer to finding out the truth. I don't know, but just tune in. And the more I find out about this, the more I will let you know. Now, I'm ready for today's guest, okay? And this is somebody who I've wanted to talk to, because this is a very interesting point of view, you know, especially when it comes to dealing with the paranormal, okay? Because this is somebody who has seen a lot, folks, and is surrounded by it all the time. This evening's guest, she is a RN, a nurse, yes, but not just that, she's also an author. She's got a book out where she's talking about some of her ghostly experiences while being a nurse and working in the hospital. So I tell you what, guys, get your questions ready, because this is going to be a great episode, and we're going to hear some fantastic stories. Let's welcome Jennifer Johnson. Wait, she's muted?
There it is. Hi,
there you go.
How's it going?
Awesome. Well, I tell you what, Jennifer, like I said, I was very brief in my intro description, but if you don't care, do you care to let the viewers and the listeners just know a little bit more about you?
Absolutely. First and foremost, that intro to the coming into the show is on point. I absolutely love it. It's fantastic.
Awesome.
So I'm Jen. I'm an ER nurse of 16 years. Worked in kind of hospitals, big, small, all over Northern and Southern Ontario. It's taken 16 years to kind of really come to terms with what goes on in the ER, and that the fact that there's probably a little bit more that's going on than just your typical, you know, what you see is what you get. There's always a little bit more. And if anybody knows a nurse, they know that they've got at least one ghost story. And working in the ER, it seems to be that I've got a little bit more than the average. But yeah, I've written a book, Nursing Intuition, which has absolutely some stories, some ghost stories and some fun. And otherwise, it's just me trying to bring in a little bit of the woo into the East or the Western medical world, and trying to get it. Let's come over here a little bit. Let's lean away from the 3 a.m. conversation and let's kind of bring it out into the open. So that's my standpoint, but I'm interested to see where it goes and where it takes me.
Now, before we get into any, first of all, an ER nurse, that you're built different, okay?
You have no idea.
I mean, you know, like I will. I do not want to go to the ER, not unless I am like dead, dying. Do not bring me in there. You know what I mean?
Fair.
Because
Absolutely fair.
I don't think there's anything more terrifying than an ER waiting room. You know, that's
Truly, absolutely, truly.
It takes it does. So kudos to you and thank you for your service, because it takes a special human being to work that gig. But let me ask, I was wondering this. So whenever you first got into nursing, you took the first job, were you a believer of the paranormal, or did your job make you a believer?
Oh, I mean, looking back and really searching back, like I've actually forgotten that back in grade 5, 6, 7, any book that I could find about aliens, about paranormal, I was all into it. I was scared out of my pants, but I still found those books. Come into high school, and if there was ever a metaphysical store, I found it. Bought my first tarot deck before realizing what tarot even was. And this is just as the internet's starting to come out. So I'm like, okay, it's not like I'm being fed information because, my phone's listening to me and it's picking up what I want to know. This is just as the internet's kind of starting in, 97 to 2000. And I found my first tarot deck. Well, it found me. So, always knowing that it was there, but in the background, with nursing, definitely, you couldn't help but lean into it a little bit more. And then hearing everybody else's stories, they're all talking about ghost stories, and you're going like, what are you talking about? Like you're joking, right? Like do we really believe that, or do we not? And the longer I've worked in nursing, absolutely 100%, there's a lot going on. And, if we can kind of lean into it, if we can embrace it, that's great.
Now, do you remember your first paranormal experience working in a hospital? Do you remember that?
Yeah. Which one was it? So I feel like there was one, I think the first one, where I had already started seeing someone who's doing reflexology and Reiki and kind of delving into that world. And she had kind of said, oh, you're an empath, like you're here to kind of help people move over. And I'm like, okay, like that's really random. Sure, whatever. But she was right on so many other things. She actually had also said, I see a lot of papers as in like a book. And at the time, I'm like, what are you talking about? A book? Like, you're okay. I'm just going to take this. I feel great coming out of this appointment, whatever. But I remember, so on night shift, and I'm primarily night shift. So going to take a nap in my second job. And thankfully it's behind a locked door. It's got these beautiful couches. And I just remember, kind of drifting off, and it's like you were hearing voices almost, and you're going like, what is going on? Like, I know that other people are coming in to sleep in the same room that I am, but is that really what's going on? And when I woke up, sure enough, there was nobody else in the room with me. So I'm like, okay, that's kind of a little odd, whatever. You just kind of like put it off to the side because it's night shifts and you don't really want to do too much with that. But the more I kind of started to lean into it, the more things started to happen, or at least the more I paid attention to it. So the times where, so we've got cardiac monitors in our resuscitation rooms. We put the leads all on you just to see how your heart's doing when you're there and sick. And the number of times the cardiac monitors in a bunch of different hospitals have started to read the most perfect ECGs, not just static and not, like you can read them and that's what a normal heartbeat looks like. And it's hooked up to nobody. And it's happening in our resuscitation room. So you're going, okay, that's like, what is going on with that? And so you're just like, I don't know who's here, but your time has passed. So if you could go, that would be great. But it's happened more than once. It's definitely happened in more than one ER. It is super interesting when it happens because, of course, then everybody kind of comes around to be like, was there somebody in this room? Because there's on the board, right? You've got your big board with all the patient names and all the spots. And you're going, is somebody in recess? Because like, there's nobody on the board in recess. And you're going, nope, it's just reading. And you kind of look at your partner and go, I don't know what it's doing, but it's going to just give it a minute. And sure enough, would read a perfect ECG. And it's not like, an oxygen pleth, which it's just one light that picks up the oxygen in your finger, and that's just a nice pleth, and it's one light. To produce this ECG takes 5 spots of stickers to pick up perfectly in order to produce this perfect ECG.
Wow. That is crazy. And you know, there's something connected there with the paranormal and the electricity and the devices and stuff, you know.
It has to be.
So, well, I'll never forget. I had something, a crazy experience happened. Me and my wife, actually, I think we married our first year, you know, and we had the apartment we were in, and we had a VCR that started. We were watching, you know, that's how old we are. It was VCRs, folks.
Listen, I had a VCR too. Don't worry about it.
But the crazy thing is that the movie that was in the VCR started playing on the television. Now, here's the crazy part. Are you ready? The VCR wasn't plugged in, folks.
Stop.
No. And to this day, it freaked us out so bad. We couldn't understand it, but it was playing the video on the television, and it was not plugged in. And there was some weird things that happened at that place too. But we didn't tell too many people about that, but it was just like, what's going on? But I truly believe that was something paranormal. They have ways of doing stuff like that. And where you're at, though, you're surrounded, unfortunately, especially in the emergency room, I'm pretty sure you're surrounded by death a lot, correct?
Yeah. It's not every shift if you're lucky. But there is a superstition about deaths come in 3s or 7s. You're lucky if it stops at a 3. And actually, just this past week, my ER had 2 on one shift and 1 in the next shift, and so it was like, okay, there's your 3. Can we stop? Like that's enough. And the shift prior to that had been probably one of the most beautiful shifts I'd seen in a very long time. The day shift was crazy. The night shift was crazy. The day shift was fine after that. And then my next night shift was beautiful again. And I'm like, I don't know what's happening, but something's working itself through. So whatever.
It almost makes you nervous, like you're expecting for a crappy shift coming along.
Oh, so I joked with the girls. I'm like, I'm double fisting my coffee coming into this night shift because like we didn't get breaks last night and I'm a zombie. So I'm double fisting my coffee coming in, which I never do.
Now you work closely around a lot of medical doctors.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there's probably a lot of medical doctors that, I mean, you know, I've heard them talk. Some of them do believe in near-death experiences and some of the stuff going on. But I wonder how many of them out there believe in the paranormal. Or will admit to it. Let me put it that way.
So it depends where you work. Because the doctors, so if you've got internists who don't work the night shift, or who are away when things tend to hit the fan, it makes a difference versus the ER docs and the ICU docs who are there all the time. You're there for everything. So and again, it kind of builds into intuition a little bit. So when the nurse comes to say to you, hey, I don't know what's happening. I've just got a not great feeling about this. I know that their vitals are okay. And the story, it seems fine, but like there's more going on to this. Like, please just listen. And sure enough, when, you know, if you've got an experienced doc, they're the ones who drop everything, come to see your patient. It's the newer ones who are like, oh, what are you talking about? A feeling? Okay, like whatever. And they get burned a couple of times before they then start listening.
Yeah. What's your opinion, Jennifer, like on near-death experiences, like people who may have died and, you know, have left their body and could see, you know, I mean, I'm a total believer. I just think that, you know, it's people have experienced it and it's happened so many times.
Yeah.
What's your opinion on that?
100% believer. You know, we give people ketamine, and ketamine is a medication that very specifically makes you have that experience. A lot of people who, so we sedate people with ketamine for very short periods if they've dislocated an extremity to put it back in. If we're going to be doing a procedure that we just need them to kind of be calm, cool, and collected for a little bit of time, we give them ketamine, and these people come out and they say, I was floating on the ceiling. I was looking down. I heard all you guys talking, all these things. And it's the same thing as when a patient tells me and is like grabbing me and looking at me and says, I'm going to die. You better believe that that person somehow knows, because they always crash. They always are the ones to go south very, very quickly. And again, same thing. They may seem fine in the moment, like maybe things are coming and going pretty quickly, but when they say that that's going to happen, that's 100% going to happen. Actually, my first patient death that I was a part of was a mother who was getting just a routine C-section, and they hadn't let the dad in yet. I was still a nursing student. So they're like, put the nursing student by the head of the bed and we'll get her going. And so this mom is talking to me, and we're talking about all these things. And I start hearing the alarms going on, and I'm going, okay, like I'm pretty new. I don't know what's going on. They may be normal alarms. I don't know. This is like I think it was my first C-section as well. And the anesthesiologist starts yelling things over top of me, and I'm going, what's happening? And the patient, and there's the goosebumps, the patient starts saying, I see God, and God is here, and I'm at my cabin, and I'm safe, and it's warm, and I'm going to be okay, and all these things. And I'm just like, what in the world is happening? And so sure enough, doesn't she then code minutes after they get babe out, and they're just finishing up the sutures to kind of like put stuff over her, like the dressing over top of the wound. She codes. My first code blew. My preceptor is jumping on her chest to do compressions. I'm the one who's like, what's the phone number to call? The code blew overhead. And so we get her back, but she's intubated. So she can't say anything because she's now been sedated and intubated. So a tube going down her throat, and we transfer her out to another hospital. And, I just remember telling her, it's going to be fine. It's all fine. It's just another day. It's a routine scheduled C-section. Like nothing should happen. And we get word back later in the afternoon that she's died. And it wrecked me. Absolutely wrecked me. I'm going, but I told her it would be okay. I told her it would be okay. And, and being a student, so not really knowing, like I was a fourth year student, like I was just about done, but had no concept, no real exposure to death, no real exposure to any, unforeseen complications, let alone an exceedingly rare complication that turned out to be an amniotic fluid embolism that caused all this. But yeah, like I can't look back at that experience and not think like, how was she talking to me about seeing God? And, she was quite religious, seeing God, going into that cabin, and like, she was so calm about it. And I'm going, sorry, again, the shivers.
I can only imagine. And hopefully, as horrible as it is that someone, would pass away, especially in that situation, there's a little comfort knowing that, she did pass over to somewhere where she was happy, where she was going.
Yeah, she seemed comfortable. She didn't seem like she was anxious or stressing out or worried even. And so luckily enough, she had heard baby cry, and so she kind of called out baby's name when right before this had all happened. And so 2:00 rolls around, we hear the news that she's died. I go home. I barely remember driving home, and stayed up all night because I'm thinking, everything happened so fast, we couldn't let dad in. So her last words were to me, and I'm like, that is such a weight to carry. So I stayed up all night writing down absolutely everything that I could remember, knowing full well that minute by minute, I'm going to kind of, forget or twist a little bit what she said. So I wrote it all down. I wrote a card to baby. I wrote a card to dad, and ended up finding them in the NICU the next morning when I went back to work, and not knowing that baby had also had to be resuscitated at birth. I completely missed that until I was told later. And so I'm like, oh my God, okay, like this is a big deal. And so that I ended up keeping in touch with Dad and have watched Babe grow up through the years, and Dad get remarried, and yeah, every March is hard, but it's one of those things where I'm like, okay, at least I was a part of it. At least I could pass on that knowledge. And it kind of, it's just one more experience to add to the list of like things that have happened that are a little bit too hard to just put aside.
Oh, absolutely. And I want to say what an amazing story that is that you just shared. I think that is an awesome story with the fantastic ending. I love the fact that you stay in touch with them too. That is awesome. That is so awesome. Let's do this real quick. Jennifer, we do have our first question.
I see that.
And first of all, Liv Light, she's part of the Question Hall of Fame here on Beyond the Tinfoil Hat. So she always shows up with some awesome questions. What's up, Liv? Here we go. Hi, Jen. Welcome from a fellow Canadian. What percentage of nurses do you believe have and use their intuition? I think most of them.
Everybody's got intuition. Absolutely everybody. Every woman knows that feeling about, I'm in the wrong situation, or that guy's a creep, I should probably stay away. So we've all got that built into us. It's just whether or not you hone it. And so really the number of nurses that I think actually have it is everybody. Who uses it is another kind of interesting question, because like, are you using it without really realizing that that's what it's called, or that's what you're doing? And, it takes some time to get to that point of being able to say to your doc and be able to be comfortable saying, hey, I just don't know what's going wrong. Like, you kind of have to come at it from a very like, demure angle, but it's, everybody's got it. And the longer you practice nursing, the more you then hear other people's stories about trusting their guts and what's happened, the more you kind of become comfortable with saying, yes, that's 100% what is going on. That's also what I'm doing. So maybe I can come and lean into this a little bit more and bring it into my wheelhouse of skills. So everybody's doing it. We're just not talking about it. That's the problem.
So, I mean, they have these things. You're like, well, I'm not going to mention it because I don't want anybody,
I don't want to be called weird. I don't want to
be weird.
Yes.
Well, tell them they can always come on this show, because this is where, the weird gets weird, and we love the weird. We embrace the weird. This is a safe place for weird.
Listen, I've been weird for as long as I have known. Kids would call me weird growing up, and you're like, thank you. And it would really throw them off. It was the greatest thing to watch. So I tell my kids, I'm like, is mom weird? They're like, yeah. And I'm like, good. Mom's weird. It's fine. Like, let's go on that.
Let's see. Here's a Liv with another one. Here we go. Do you think there will be an increase in death doulas and end-of-life assistants, soul workers?
The increase that we've already seen in death doulas has been phenomenal. I personally love palliative care and have thought about kind of going the death doula route. The only problem for me being sometimes you're on call 24/7, right? Because death happens every moment of every day. And just like being a midwife who's on call and, having that brick of time being set away for people who potentially could be going into labor, you need to have that chunk of time set aside for people who potentially are then passing. Unfortunately, I don't have that right now. I'm really hoping to in the future. But no, death workers and grief counselors and death doulas are all, man, if we could get them in hospital, I would be so excited and so phenomenally impressed with how far we can come. Because honestly, as much as they teach you in nursing school, oh, you're going to save everybody, you learn real fast that you absolutely are not going to save everybody. And it has nothing to do with you or your care or your knowledge base. It's just that life is going to do what it's going to do. And coming to terms with that, being able to then take it and pivot and being able to provide people with not only a comfortable and dignified death, but then also making family become part of the process, kind of normalizing death a little bit in that, if you want to get in the bed with the person who's dying and hug them one last time, absolutely. If you want to, play music from when they were roughly 20. I did this for my grandmother when she was really, really ill and really wasn't verbal and not awake very long periods. And it was obvious she was kind of coming closer to the end. And I put on Frank Sinatra because in my grandmother's, when she was roughly 20, 25, that was the era of music. And so I put on My Way, and she starts tapping her toes. And my mother looks at me and goes, I would have never thought to do that in a million years. I'm like, that's what we do. Like, that's how you kind of, work with your patient and their family and make them comfortable. I did not realize the lyrics of My Way until I was listening to them. And, and
there's
now
a few songs like that,
and now the time is near, all this kind of stuff. And I'm going, oh, please don't let my mom actually hear these lyrics, which of course she did. And then we joke about now. She's like, of course you'd be the one to put on My Way with those kind of lyrics. But I'm just like, but look how happy she was. Like she patted her foot, and people think that the hospital bed is like a sacred area that you can't go in. Well, these poor people probably haven't been touched more than just by a nurse who's turning them or repositioning them or cleaning them in a long, long time. So if you're comfortable, get into the bed with your loved ones and hug them and cuddle them and do what you're comfortable with. And obviously be careful of the lines and any other things that are going on. But it's
like,
time.
oops, sorry, I don't know what this.
Sorry, well, there's an IV. Oh, it's gone. Like,
well, I had when my mother passed away, me and my my sister was with her, and she was on one. My sister's on one side, I was on the other, and mom had already went into a coma, and so it was getting close, and she'd been in a coma for I want to say 3 days, and she was on her way getting ready to pass. And me and my sister are bawling, we're crying and holding her hand. And then out of nowhere, my mom wakes up, looks over at me and my sister, and was like, kids, don't cry. Don't be sad. It's okay. And patted her hands, and then right back out. So
that's a normal phenomenon. Yours is kind of interesting because it was so short.
Yeah.
But a lot of family members will be comatose for a while, and then they'll come up. And the family will get very hopeful because, mom's looking great, dad's looking great. Oh my gosh, maybe we're making the wrong decision. And it's so hard to break the news that this is kind of, we call it like the rise before the fall. And it's that last burst of energy that they kind of bring together. And it's the last good memories. And it's like, just enjoy it while it's there. Take it for all it's worth.
And that's how we took it, because like I said, we thought we weren't going to hear her voice again. This was it. And she popped up just enough time to smile. A smile popped on her face when she looked at us and told us that. And it was like I was like, oh, this is crazy, but thank you so much. But I tell you what, this is what I want to do, Jennifer. I do want to talk, if you've got any more ghost stories you would like to share. Also, we want to talk about your book a little bit. And you guys get your questions ready. Some more questions for Jennifer. We're going to cut to these messages as soon as here in a few minutes. We'll be right back with Jennifer Johnson.
Have you ever wondered, or maybe just thought to yourself, if there were others just like you? You know, people with extraordinary abilities, psychogenic advancement, and perhaps unique intuitions. Maybe you just wondered if there were other people who experienced unimaginable, unexplained, or even unusual and paranormal events. Are there people who have more questions, more fears than answers? Well, you're not alone. You've never been alone. We believe you. Sign up for EA today.
It's your business. It's your property. Your assets are worth protecting. Blacklight Investigative and Surveillance Services specializes in patrolling and inspecting residential or commercial property against fire, theft, vandalism, terrorism, and illegal activity. People and buildings are monitored to prevent crime. Keep your property, your people, and your assets safe from threat. Our elite staff are dual licensed private investigators and security guards. Blacklight Investigative and Surveillance Services. Go to blacklightiss.com.
All right. Welcome back, guys. If you are just now tuning in, we are here with nurse and author Jennifer Johnson. I tell you what, first, real quick, hold on, Jen. I want to give a quick shout out over here. We do have Leona. Thank you so much for checking us out, Leona. And of course, we've got the live light. And I do believe I saw Lisa pop up in here. So we got a few familiar faces and names in here, guys. Thank you so much for watching the show. Here we go, Jennifer. Now, I think we were just touching base. You said it's common for people in comas to kind of wake up and, they hang out for a little bit, families think, hey, everything's okay, but it doesn't turn out that way. Correct?
Yeah, that's kind of the usual last kind of rise before the fall.
And here's the thing is, both my parents have passed, and of course I miss them so much. But, I mean, as crazy as it sounds, or weird, whatever you want to call it, I stay in touch with my folks. And, because I have learned over the years to keep my eyes and ears open, and they talk to me all the time, so so they're still there. They're still there. But also, I just had this conversation today, which I find so funny. We're all going to die. Sorry, bummer. Newsflash.
Spoiler alert.
I don't now here's the thing. I don't want to die anytime soon, folks. Okay, so I'm putting that out there. I want to live to be an old, crusty, just miserable old man. I want to be that guy. I want
Guess
to eat.
who's going to be the one taking care of you?
Exactly. I want somebody. I want to live. I want somebody wiping my butt. That's how old I want to be. I just want to. I'm giving it back to the world. But anyways, at the same time, I've accepted that one day I am going to croak, and we fear it like we have all the answers. There's times like people are, we're like, oh, I don't want to die. Well, man, it may be like super cool wherever you're going, bro.
Right?
A lot better than this place. So, but here's the thing, like I said, you're around it so much, and I know to a certain extent, you have to, just like with your first story, that's almost a very emotional hook, your first experience, but you also have to be, isn't there like a shield you have to put up sometimes?
100%. That would be the the jewelry that I normally wear. Love me some crystals. Yeah, you kind of go into work and, me personally, it's okay. I'm going into work. I understand that there's going to be things that want to come in or things that want to happen. And it's just like, okay, like I myself, a lot of the time will just, okay, everybody who's coming into the ER tonight, let them be people who need to come into the ER tonight, whether it's physically, they are actually having an emergency and they need help. Or maybe it's just a spiritual crisis or a social crisis. Maybe they're a drug addict and they need help getting out, and they need just one person to believe that this is what's happened to them and come out of it, kind of thing. So I personally go into every shift where it's, I'm blaring my music. I've got an ER pump up playlist that it's like, okay, we're jamming out, we're getting ready for battle kind of thing. Coming into work, it's, very much this is, I'm trying to protect myself and my energy about this, because the more that you're around it, you end up picking up people's emotions like left, right, and center. And you go from being like, oh, it's such a great day. And then a trauma comes in and you're like, you see the family and they're so upset and you can't help but then be upset with them. And it takes a minute to step back and go like, okay, are these emotions really mine, or am I just picking up on the family? Like, what's happening here? And, a lot of times you're just too busy to even realize that you're picking up on the family. But when you're that person who, if you happen to have extra staff, that somebody's kind of on the edges to help deal with family, because a lot of the times if there's a resuscitation going on and we can bring family in, we're going to try and do that to let family know that we are doing absolutely everything possible that we can. And, if we're not going to be successful, then at least you're here. So sometimes we will even still be doing like chest compressions and that kind of thing. And we'll have family come in and sit at the bedside and say, if you want to say your goodbyes, they're technically still with us, kind of thing. We're doing everything we can. So, feel free to say your goodbyes and hopefully get some peace there. But you walk away from those things and you can't help but feel like absolutely drained, not just physically, because CPR is hard. CPR is the abdominal workout that you didn't know you were missing. And then
a quick question real quick I want to ask you is okay, like, you've heard the stories like when people are passing away, when they're dying, that sometimes they're greeted by a loved one from the other side to help, to bring them pass over.
Yeah.
My grandmother in particular, whenever she was dying and right before she passed away, literally, me, my aunts and uncles and mom and dad were all in the room. She just looks over in the corner of the room and starts talking to her baby brother, Vincent, who was killed when he was 6 years old.
Yeah.
She saw Vincent there, come on, let's go. I'm here for you. We're going to go. And she was just tickled to death. Have you seen any, have that happened with any of the patients there in the hospital?
All the time when people are, So when you decide whether or not you want an active resuscitation, so full on chest compressions, endotracheal tube, the whole bit, there's a lot going on. It's very chaotic versus, if you've chosen that you don't want any, so we call it do not resuscitate. So you don't want any interventions. So if something's happening and you're starting to pass away, but we're doing it peacefully and we're kind of being a little hands off other than pain medications and sedation and that kind of thing. The number of times people have same thing, gone up to and start chatting to people is insane. It's absolutely nuts. And and then families, they're going oh, are they hallucinating, whatever. And you're trying to feel the family out to see where they are on kind of the acceptance scale and going well, actually, they may be, we can say hallucinating, but they may be seeing actual family. But you really that's the whole thing, is to try and feel out where family is, because if they're absolutely, this is not happening, very closed off, you're coming at it from a much more scientific perspective, oh, sometimes people hallucinate and talk and see things that aren't there, and you're trying to come at it from that angle versus the people who are very open, and you're going oh, they're probably seeing that loved one, and that's probably very comforting for them. Sometimes it's a little easier when people are open, because you can say oh, who do you think they're seeing? And then that actually brings up stories of other past loved ones. And it ends up being lovely conversations about people that have already passed, and brings up memories. And it's a much nicer kind of situation versus the people who are very closed off, who aren't willing to let this happen, and they're fighting it tooth and nail. And, you just can't help but feel like they're being left with just a lot of death trauma, and then hospital trauma also.
Well, something I want to add to that too is because, when people use, and I don't want to say absolutely they could be hallucinating, but keep in mind with this too, folks. Keep in mind, everything you're seeing right now, your brain is hallucinating. Your reality, your brain. You take this information in, and your brain's I got to make sense of this. I'm trying to figure this out. And that is another form of a hallucination. So reality, as you see it right now, actually isn't quite what is there. Okay. It's so, I mean, that's why when people say, oh, well, they're just hallucinating, that big fat word just, that doesn't explain anything.
No,
that doesn't make the experience, what's happening, any less real than this conversation we're having right now.
100%.
So your brain is constantly hallucinating. So, and I mean, and we've always thought of the word hallucinating as being, well, that means it's not real. No, that's just how we perceive reality. So I think these people, I'm telling you, we're getting deep, and we ain't even done.
We're going real deep, real hard, real fast.
We got really deep. I told you, this is Beyond the Tinfoil Hat, folks, where in the intro, when I say it's going to get deep, it gets deep. But anyway, so I always got to throw that out there.
Absolutely.
But now we got another great question from Liv Light.
Liv is killing it.
Boom, knocking them down.
Oh man, Liv is just rocking it.
It's what practices do you use to get rid of that trauma energy or negative hospital shifts? Lots of patients, staff, and family energies to deal with. Heck yeah, I can only imagine.
Yeah. So my favorite way is when I come home, I actually have a sunroof in my Equinox. So if it's nice out, because of course it's Canada, so sometimes it's a little too cool to open up the Equinox sunroof, but I like to put my hand up. And I'm sure I look like crazy to everybody who's coming either toward or behind me. And I just let the wind kind of take it. I said, whomever I've touched today, I hope they're at peace. I hope they're feeling better wherever they're at. And but I'm letting them go. This is their energy. It's no longer mine. Please take it. I've got a sage spray that I bring to work, and we all joke about, oh, Jen's got a sage spray. I'm like, yeah, well, but it works because I can't burn.
I got some. It's called pepper spray. I just get away.
Back demon. We can't burn sage, or we can't burn any other kind of smoke bearing things in the hospital without getting into a lot of trouble. So me personally, it's just, oh, we're just gonna little sage spray and go from there. Yeah, because it's just there's always a lot kind of hanging around depending on the day, depending on what's happened. Like we just had a pediatric death not too long ago, and I mean it sits in the hospital, like it sits in the ER because the staff are affected. The patients can't help but hear what's going on. Like there's no way that the patients in that ER didn't know exactly what was going on, because it's not like we're quiet, and the sound carries because the hospital's older than, like, twice as old as I am. So
now let me ask you this real quick, Jen, because this is interesting. Now, because you did talk about how, when you're leaving, you kind of ask, have you ever brought, do you think maybe a spirit or something has ever followed you home? Anything like that?
I don't think like spirit embodiment per se. The ongoing joke is every time I try to go to a medium, it's patients that are coming through. It's not family. It's just the patients that continually come through. And the most recent one was, unfortunately, a gentleman who the wife had driven him to the ER, had parked in the parking lot, which was a little bit a ways from the ER door. And she had run up to the ER saying, like, oh my God, can somebody please help my husband? And I, for some reason, ran. I don't run typically. I ran down the ramp to get to the car, and sure enough, like, he's agonal respirations. Like he's just about, I'm wondering if he's even got a pulse. I'm trying to feel, I don't feel one. So I'm trying to start CPR in the car while we're calling 911, because technically hospital policy, if it's in the parking lot, we're supposed to call 911 to get them to come to then transport up the ramp, because it's a very steep ramp up to the ER. And so trying to do that, we get him into the ER. We try as best we can to resuscitate him, but unfortunately it doesn't go well. And, there was just a lot going on, but the major concern was he had a young daughter who was still at school. And so they were from out of the area. We didn't know, can we call the school? Can we talk to the principal? Are we allowed to even say what's happening? Like, there was so much red tape that you're like, how do we kind of get around this so that somebody can bring this poor child from where they are living to where the parents are? Because nobody's going to be there to pick up the kid. So ends up that somebody picks up the child, and they come into the ER, and there was lots of family, thankfully, that kind of came and went and was very, very supportive. But, after that had happened, I went to a buddy who does kind of group readings. And sure enough, she's like, oh, I'm picking up somebody in a car. And I'm like, oh man, here we go. And he comes through and he's like, I just want to say, I thank you so much for all you've done and all of this. And of course, like, I'm bawling because I haven't dealt with it, because all we do is push it down and not deal. And so I'm just like, this is the funniest thing, that like, it's I think my one grandmother has come through one time in maybe 10 years, but other than that, it's predominantly been patients. And my friends who I kind of talked to, they say, well, because that's the message you need. Like, that your grandparents are fine. They lived a long life. They did what they needed to do. They passed comfortably. Whereas your patients need you to know that you were integral in their care, and that you needed to do what you needed to do. And so they need you to hear this so that you can kind of continue on, because it is quite taxing when you have something so traumatic, especially somebody younger, let alone pediatric, that you're trying to deal with.
That is, and you're 100%. And I agree, you're getting those things because that's what you need, So I think that was awesome. We've got a quick little another. I don't even know if it's a question, but it looks like it's a compliment from Liv. She says your nurse's intuition cards on Etsy, by the way, are beautiful and inspiring. Will you be doing another run, almost sold out, with maybe a theme like giving women intuition cards? Congrats on the lovely merch.
Liv, you are a saint, and I can't tell you how much I appreciate you. She is like on top of exactly what's going on. The cards are almost sold out. I could do a women's intuition one. I mean,
You
really,
should.
I should. There you go. Maybe that was the whole reason of me coming on, was just to get a little bit of inspiration.
There
But
you go.
yeah, the cards are kind of a very funny, quirky way of me, again, trying to wean in, the Western world to intuition and the woo just a little bit, without
Well, I
full
always feel
on.
like the universe, you get that into it. Like one time I found $100 and I was pretty sure the universe was like, give that dude's wallet back. Give that dude's wallet back. But, who knows? But, well, speaking of merch, I believe somebody's got a book. Let's hear a little bit about this book.
So, Nursing Intuition: How to Trust Your Gut, Save Your Sanity, and Survive Your Career is my baby. It was born of a trauma journal. So during COVID, I ended up breaking so hard and hitting such rock bottom, that I ended up thinking that I needed to write the stories to try and explain, had I not survived COVID, to my children, why I continue to go back and why I continue to choose to go to work. And so with the really, really good stories of me helping, then of course came the really awful stories of the patients that I'd lost. And when looking at it and writing it, the main theme was just intuition, intuition, intuition. And Llewellyn in the States, who's a book publisher, during COVID was doing online book kind of talk with the authors kind of thing. And one of the ones that I fell upon was Intuition at Work. And the thought just hit me that, well, intuition at work, I use intuition at work every day. And it was just that lightning bolt where it was like, okay, let's try and see if we can bring this to the masses. Let's see if there's peer-reviewed supported evidence, because I can't come forward without that. And sure enough, isn't there not more than 20 years experience or evidence on nursing, but nursing in intuition, or intuition in nursing specifically. So if it's peer-reviewed evidence-based science, it's time we talk about it. It's time we bring it out of the 3 a.m. conversation, and start letting people know that this is something that you can hone, that you can work with, and go from there. So it's my baby. It's, if I ever need another psychologist, I just give them the book to be like, this is volume 1 of my trauma. Here you go. And but there's things, so there's my stories in there mixed with all the knowledge, how to survive night shifts, journaling prompts about intuition and how you're growing and that kind of thing. So that spawned then a bunch of journals supporting nurses and the nursing intuition deck, and a bunch of other things that
We got any spooky stories? Any spooky stories in there?
Oh, always. You can't
Nice.
not have spooky stories.
Well, I tell you what, Jennifer, where can they find this book? Where can they pick it up?
So book is on pre-order for the ebook on Amazon right now. It's due for release October 29th. I'm on Etsy, I'm on Instagram and TikTok at ernurse.jen. I'm the intuitive nurse on Etsy. And if you search Amazon Jennifer A. Johnson RN, you can find all of my journals and my books and all of the things. So that's where I'm at.
Super cool. Now, what was that TikTok handle again?
At ernurse.jen with 2 N's.
Okay,
and
cool.
It's pretty much just goofy things. It's CapCut and me putting it in a hospital situation, so it's kind of goofy.
Hey, I love Goofy. In case you hadn't tell, hey, Goofy's right up my. Well, I tell you what, this has been a very interesting episode, a very fun episode. Some really interesting stories. I tell you what, Jennifer, I got to get you back on here to hear some more, because I'm sure you've got plenty more to tell. But I tell you what, Jennifer, thank you so much for coming on Beyond the Tinfoil Hat. This has been great. Thank you
so much. It's been a blast.
All right, fam. Hey, you guys were awesome with your questions tonight. I want to say, well, live light. Of course, Liv knocked them out of the park, but thank you guys for hanging out and watching the show. If you guys have not done so, like always, be sure to like and subscribe and tell your friends about the show. If you got any friends that are interested in UFOs, ghosts, even cryptids, Bigfoots, If that's your thing, let them know. Tell them to come over and check out the show, okay? Streaming live at 7 p.m. Eastern every Tuesday. I love to see new faces pop up in the comments as much as I love to see the familiar faces that tune in every Tuesday evening. Thank you guys so much. You are awesome. If you guys have not done so, also head over to Patreon. Show us a little bit of love there. Make a little $4 donation. And you get access to some really cool investigative articles by Ryan Stacy over at the experiencersupport.org. Be sure to check out Ryan's podcast. That's on Mondays, and I believe that's still at 5 o'clock. Ryan really breaks down some things. He does some investigations on some things, and it's, he really makes you look at it from a different perspective. So I highly recommend checking out his podcast on Mondays. Also, if you haven't done so, show your boy some love. Yeah, it's me. If you're on Instagram, okay, head over to Super Magic Boy on Instagram and give me a follow. I do post regularly where I'm going to be at, entertaining, doing my comedy magic show. Yes, it's a fun show. You guys should definitely check it out if I'm ever in your town. If you're on Facebook, give me a follow at Danny Whitson Magic and Comedy on Facebook. I make a lot of announcements there, so definitely give me a follow there. Also, I want to bring back, like I said, mentioned at the beginning of the show, we've got the Congress hearings have been announced. It's going to go down. It's going to happen. We're going to have people testify in front of Congress again, maybe some whistleblowers. I don't know, but I do know it's happening. So as long as that's out there and it's being talked about, we're getting one step closer to finding out the truth about what's flying around and buzzing around the skies, guys. But like always, we are broadcasting live from the E-United Public Radio Network, the UFO Paranormal Radio Network on 103.3 FM on the Gulf Coast and 107.7 FM in New Orleans. Guys, you have been wonderful. This has been a fantastic show. And be sure to tune in next week. I don't even know who our guest is next week. I don't know. Do we know who our guest is next week? Do we? Any clue? Okay.
No, we don't.
No clue. We don't know. And you know what? I want to show some love to our production guy, Chris, because you got some compliments tonight, brother. You got some compliments on that amazing intro and this amazing outro that's getting ready to come up. And all I had to do was just run my mouth. I didn't do all the cool work. So there you go, Jennifer. That's all on Chris. All I do is just flap my jaws. But I tell you what, I'm trying to kill time for another 30 seconds. Live light. Yay, Chris. See, she's throwing you some love there, too. And I'm killing time with compliments for Chris. In the meantime, here's a pin. Here's a magic trick. Like always, I'll see you guys next week.
All right, that does it for this episode of Beyond the Tinfoil Hat. A big shout out for tonight's awesome guest, and a bigger shout out for everyone who tuned in. And if you haven't done so yet, be sure to subscribe to us on YouTube or wherever it is you listen to your podcasts. And like always, be sure to stay curious, heed the world, and keep the paranormal normal. I'm your host, Danny Whitson, and this has been Beyond the Tinfoil Hat.